Bicky had prepared for a war. What he got was an execution. The day of reckoning came without gunfire, without betrayal, without the bloodshed he had anticipated. Paul stepped up at the Hog Hunters gang meeting, and for the first time in his life, he shocked Bicky. He announced, without malice, without theatrics, that Bicky was leaving. Bicky stared, waiting for the catch. Paul always had an angle. Always. But there was no knife waiting to stab him in the back. No war cries or challenges. Just Paul, standing before the men they had led for years, announcing Bicky's departure like it was a retirement ceremony. Bicky had known Paul was dangerous. Had known he was capable of many things. He just never thought civility was one of them. The room was silent after Paul's declaration. Bicky met his second-in-command's eyes. "I'm leaving," he said, his voice steady. "But I'm not running. I'm going to Avon Bay, and I'm going to save it. No blood, no war, just a man trying to fix what he's broken." The men stared at him, unblinking. Paul grinned. Well, good luck with that. Bicky didn't expect anyone to follow him. But 3 of the founding members did. And without looking back, they walked away from the life they had built. Sue didn't try to stop him. Not at first. But the night before he left, she stood in the doorway, the baby in her arms, and finally let her anger spill out. "You're going to die for people who don't even know your name," Bicky sighed. "I'm doing what I can. What about us?" His throat tightened. "You were never mine to keep." She shook her head, eyes shining. "You could have been." He had nothing to say to that. Because they both knew it was true. Avon Bay was already lost. The sons of Aryan had their claws in deep, and the town was suffocating under their weight. Bicky and his men did what they could. They helped repair homes, stood guard when the gang came knocking, tried to give people a reason to stay. But it wasn't enough. The sons of Aryan struck, and Bicky felt the old instincts claw their way to the surface. This wasn't a world that could be saved with kindness. But he fought the urge. For Sue. For the baby. For the man he was trying to become. Paul didn't give a damn about Avon Bay. But when word reached him about what Bicky was doing, he showed up. Not to help. Not to fight. To mock. "You're making a fool of yourself," he said, leaning against Bicky's truck. "What's the plan, huh? You gonna shake hands and sing songs until the Nazis pack up and leave?" Bicky wiped the sweat from his brow. "Go home, Paul." Paul chuckled. "Nah, I gotta see this crash and burn in person," and so, he stayed. Not because he cared. Not because he believed in what Bicky was doing. But because he wanted to watch him fail. Then the war came. The sons of Aryan escalated. They didn't just threaten anymore, they attacked. Bicky and his men held the line as best they could, but the fight was impossible. Then something changed. The young men from the Hog Hunters started showing up. They weren't here to kill. They weren't here to conquer. They saw something in the people of Avon Bay, something worth protecting. And for the first time in their lives, they fought for something other than themselves. They fought for a future. Paul called them weak. Until the sons of Aryan taunted him. Until they laughed at him, called him a relic, dared him to leave. And Paul snapped. He fought like a man possessed. And something in him broke. Because for the first time since Isabel, he wasn't fighting for power. He was fighting because it was right. And it changed him. But there is no victory without loss. The sons of Aryan weren't done. More were coming. And then, the gunshot. Bicky didn't think. He ran. The little girl was frozen in the street, too afraid to move. He grabbed her. The bullet was meant for her. It found him instead. He fell to the ground, pain searing through him, but all he could see was the child's wide eyes. She was safe. And for the first time in his life, so was he. Paul caught him before he hit the ground. No, you don't get to do this," Paul growled, shaking him. You don't get to go out like this. Bicky smiled, blood on his lips. It's all right. Paul's grip tightened. Like hell it is. Bicky coughed, breath shallow. Told you I had a plan. Paul gritted his teeth, shaking his head. This wasn't the plan. Bicky exhaled, a shuddering breath. Yeah, it was. Paul cursed, furious. Because Bicky had known. He had walked into this with his eyes wide open. And Paul had never hated him more. The hog hunters disbanded. Because the sons of Aryan would come for them. Because Paul couldn't stomach the thought of carrying it on without Bicky. Paul spent days thinking. Cursing Bicky's name. Cursing the goddamn hope he had put in his head. And then, he made a decision. He walked into a police station. And he told them everything. Every crime. Every deal. Every body. There was blood on his hands. And it was time to pay for it all. Because in the end, Bicky had won. He had saved a town. He had saved his men. And goddammit, he had saved Paul.